Good evening, good evening, good evening. This is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Another day's journey. So glad about it and so grateful that you're here again. It's Saturday evening. You know what we do, but we're doing it a little differently. I am so grateful to kind of go to the next level with this 5 o'clock thing. And now my sister, my friend, Andrea Lawful Sanders is here to help bring that professional thing. You know how I've just been showing up, just to let you know what's going to happen tomorrow. But we wanted to take this opportunity, particularly during this political season, to be a place where we could keep you informed, inspired, and also be a place where we can dispel myth and get at truth. Somebody like to call it the truth with Andrea and Alyn. I like that. And the reality is it's an opportunity for us in this most important election season to talk about the things that matter. This is also an opportunity for me to let you know about what's going on with Andrea and her new podcast. And we want to make sure that everybody's listening to this is going to leverage that and go over, because that will outlast this season. And there'll be a place where you can go and get real good information about what's happening in the diaspora and what's happening in our community. But tonight, again, this is my opportunity to remind you about tomorrow and what's coming up in the week ahead, because you do know 8 Days of Glory is on the way, and I am so excited. You know that when right after the third Sunday in October for 8 days, we are in revival. All of my friends are coming, but we're asking you to bring food each night, the canned food, because we're going to make sure that everybody, not just you, has a wonderful Thanksgiving. But we're going to invite those who are belonging to Enon to come in, and we're going to have baptism at the end of the week. So it's just going to be a great time. Wilmington Chester Choir, Buster and the 300, a lot of wonderful music. So we're just looking forward to all of it. But tonight, we need to talk. Last week, we talked to the commissioner in Philadelphia County, and tonight we want to talk to the commissioner of Montgomery County. But I'm going to let Andrea set that up and help us understand who's here with us tonight. Andrea?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to The Truth with Alyn and Andrea. I'm so happy. We've been having conversations for the last 4 years, every Tuesday. And so now I'm excited for us to continue this relationship where we're interviewing each other and people that matter, especially as it applies to this election. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, by the way, and this woman that is sitting here with us from Montgomery County is a commissioner. We had Chairman Sabir last week, and today, are you the chairman of the Montgomery County? The chair. Well, look at that. Two in a row. I'm excited.
In our first and second show.
In the first and second show. So we have the chairwoman of Montgomery County Commissioners. Her name is Jamila Winder. I met Jamila. You know what? I'm putting this away. I met Jamila at a speech in Montgomery County where she stood up. There were a bunch of women running for election. She has been a county commissioner now for about 18 months, and she was running for that position. And she stood up and began speaking, and I picked up my phone, and I texted a friend. You didn't know this. I texted a friend, and I said, you see what she's doing? You need to do it. She was relatable. She was authentic. She was telling her story from the heart. And I walked up to you after you finished that speech, and I said, you're going to win this election. It's going to be tough, but you're going to win this election. You're not the first woman of color.
I'm the first Black woman to serve on the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners.
You know, wow. It's 2024. Why are we still doing all these firsts?
Thank God we are doing the first. So,
that's right.
Well, the nanny of the Maroons in me is coming out, because we should have had many first, right? Before 2024. Jamila, it's a pleasure to have you here with Pastor Waller and I. My first question to you, before we start talking about the elections in Montgomery County, my first question to you, for those who don't know who you are, who is Jamila Winder? Why are you in this position? How did you get here?
Well, thank you. First, thank you, Pastor Waller, for having me. And Andrea, always a pleasure to be with you. Look, my journey to this office was a little bit unique. My parents moved us to Montgomery County when I was 5 from Philadelphia. And so I've called Montgomery County home for more than 4 decades. And for me, I come from a long line of public servants. My mother was an educator in the Philadelphia school system. My grandmother was a 9th grade English teacher at Salzburger Middle School in West Philadelphia. And my father was actually the deputy warden of Greaterford Prison. And so when you think about service, that was modeled for me at quite a young age. And, I was working professionally, doing well career-wise, and I knew I wanted to do more. And I didn't know the first thing about running for office back in 2017 when I got involved in an elected capacity. But I knew I wanted to carry on that legacy that had been modeled for me, some 3 decades by my mother, father, and grandmother. And so what led me to this moment is just seizing opportunities as they became available. I ran for school board in 2017, wanting to give back to the district that had given so much to me and serve that district through COVID. And then there was an opportunity to step up in East Norton Township, where we were the first Black family in our neighborhood. And there had never been anyone that looked like me sitting on that board. And so it was a point where loved education, but wanted to ensure that there was representation on our board of supervisors. So I stepped up there. And then when commissioner came to be, it was an opportunity to say, let me see what this role is all about. Let me see how I can be a part of something bigger than myself. And I remember my mother was sick at the time, and I was debating whether or not I was going to throw my name into the ring. It was a pretty rigorous process for the selection. And she said, "Why not you? And I've prepared you for this." And so I'm in this role because I think, I've got a nice culmination of professional experience. I've been leading organizations for the better part of 20 years. I have lived experiences that people can relate to, and I care about this community. And so that's why I'm here. The journey was hard fought, but I'm here to really serve my friends and neighbors, making life just a little bit better for them.
Before I turn it over to Pastor Waller to talk about the election process in Montgomery County,
Sure.
I need you to go a little bit deeper for me. Pretend no one else is watching this.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
All right.
Pretend no one else is watching this. And let's talk about why more of us should run for elections, right? And what the process was for you as a Black woman who ended up as the first county commissioner first Black woman as a county commissioner, because Ken Lawrence was there, right? And explain to us what the journey was like and why you were steadfast enough to get to this place, because I know personally what it is like. I'd like you to describe that to people and tell them why they should run despite what it looks like and feels like.
Yeah. So look, we need our elected leaders to represent the communities that they serve. Historically, it's been people that are coming from a place of privilege, people that have political families, people that maybe, hold a law degree.
Yes.
And so as I've been unpacking this journey for myself, that's who historically has been running for a lot of the higher offices, right? And people don't know how to get started, right? Most of when you're on school board, you know this, when you're on school board or a township supervisor or a commissioner, those are mainly volunteer roles that if you have a commitment to service and you have a talent and a skill set to bring to the table, privilege, being a lawyer or not shouldn't preclude you from being able to step up. But most people don't know how to get started. And that was what it was for me. I was naive enough to say, I remember walking, my dad was doing security at the time at Norristown Area High School. And I remember walking up to him and saying to him, "I'm running for school board." And he had to, level set for me. He's like, "Do you know what it takes to run for office?" And I said to him, no, not really. I just know I want to step up and serve. And so, we have a responsibility, regardless of the party that you're affiliated with, we have a responsibility to create succession plans, right? And to go out into the community and proactively find people that would make good elected officials. And good elected officials is not defined by how much money you have in your pocketbook, right? Or the ESQ behind your name. It's really about your value system. It's about your desire to serve and make life better for people. And so I am spending time, as I've had opportunities, bringing along people that have an interest in serving behind me and helping them navigate the complexities of running. Now, to your second question about running as a Black woman, I would say, when I ran as a school board member, when I ran as a supervisor, pretty easygoing, not much kind of fight in terms of me stepping up to run for those offices. But where I really experienced it, even from people in our own party, was when I got selected to be the choice to replace Dr. Arkush. And I say to people, I'm not your father's commissioner, right?
Come on now.
Yeah.
I wasn't what people had thought of as the next replacement. And people were surprised. I think people were like, well, where did she come from?
Yeah.
And I would often tell people in that journey when people were questioning why me, I've been here all along. I've been living and working and giving back to my community for 4 decades in Montgomery County. You just don't happen to know me yet. And I think the challenges for me running for election as a Black woman is, and I learned a lot about this, as I was running for election, that Black women, Black men, we come to the table without the resources to run for office.
Right.
I had to raise close to $500,000 to even be able to do what I needed to do to inform voters about who I was. And so that's the number one barrier, and the hardest part for me was, how do I, in this short window of time, get people to invest in me? And mainly white people, right? That didn't know me, didn't know my background, willing to, white people that believed in diversity and believed in representation, but convincing them in a short window of time.
Yes.
The other thing that I faced was just people questioning my qualifications.
Yeah.
Can we go into that? Because Pastor Waller, I'm telling you, no matter how qualified you are, if you don't have the ESQ or a certain amount of money that they deem acceptable, it becomes more difficult for you in the county, right?
Wow.
So that conversation we had last week about Philly and all the things that are happening there, it's similar, but then it's vastly different. And everything that you are talking about now are the things that folks like me who ran for office experience. They stopped picking up my trash. They left horrible messages on my phone.
Oh, wow.
All the things. And so, which is why I asked you, because so many times women and men, Black women and men, or women and men of color, because it could be Latino, whatever, want to run for office, but they're deterred. They're called and said, you're not the kind of person we're looking for. We don't think this is your time. And they use cold words, right, to make you feel like, this isn't your thing. And so I'm grateful that you are willing to have the conversation so that people don't feel deterred. I'm thinking about Keir Bradford Gray.
Sure.
Who was running for Attorney General, and all the things that impacted her as she was going through this process. How did you get over that hump, though? Because you had to convince people and you had to raise that money. So was it your authenticity? What happened so that other people who are listening in the ethos can understand what could be done?
Well, I have to give honor and praise to God first, because that's the center of my universe, and that's what got me through some very difficult times. Wow. I also am reminded every day, my parents, even in my mother's sickness, they poured into me the possibilities of what I could be. And so for me, I was always centered and grounded in that no matter what people said or did to work against me, I knew who I was. And I never, I can't say that I didn't doubt myself at times. And the doubt came more from, why am I doing this, right? Why do I have to, I've worked hard all my life. I'm highly educated. I've lived in this county for so long. Why am I putting myself through this? But, at the end of the day, it was about, if not me, then who? Mm-hmm. And I needed to demonstrate that despite, all that we face as women of color, to have a seat at the table, we belong there. And, just to speak a little bit about what I experienced, on the qualification front, right? People questioned, my background. They questioned, my experience set. Well, this is a big job. Are you sure you can handle it? And look, I've been in the private sector working for international companies, for the better part of 20 years. And that's not to talk about ego. It's about what's real and what my resume looks like. And it was hard in the end. And I can't say that I don't have battle scars as a result of it. But I'm coming out on the other side of that election better for it. And I've now paved the way for someone that has aspirations to either be commissioner or governor or president of the United States. And what I'm modeling for the community is that regular old people can sit in positions where decisions are being made. Absolutely. I think about, I'm a mom. I'm raising a 4-year-old. I've cared for 2 disabled parents for the better part of 3 years. I'm trying to make ends meet just like everyone else. And that's what I talked about when I was on the campaign trail. I was meeting people where they are, talking about issues that they care about, and showing that relatability that when I get in office, the work that I do will be for you and not for my own ego or aspirations to go somewhere else after this is all said and done.
All right, Pastor Water, see why she's in the room? This is why we have her here.
This is amazing. Thank you so much for your story. A good friend of mine, Reverend Frederick Douglass Haynes, who was a pastor of Friendship West in Dallas, spent some time with Push, but is very much a prophetic voice around the country. He pointed out that during the 80s, when Jesse Jackson was running for president, one of the things that he did, he was single-handedly, through Push, able to register millions of voters in the Black community. That was also the time of sort of the next migration, and a number of African-American Black people went out into the county. The net experience was a loss of about 4 million Black registered voters. They're like, we can't find them. They're not in the cities anymore because they moved out to the counties, but it seems that when they got out to the county, they disappeared in terms of their involvement. My question to you is, what are the challenges of getting voter participation? We know what they are in Philly. What are the challenges of getting voter participation and engagement in the African-American community in the county? And what's similar and dissimilar?
So I think what's dissimilar is just the community as a whole in Montgomery County. We turn out the vote.
Okay.
Right. So
Gotcha.
Montgomery County, if you're looking at, Pennsylvania as it relates to this presidential election, Montgomery County will be key, as well as Philadelphia. But Montgomery County, they're counting on Montgomery County to turn out.
Gotcha.
So we've got great voter engagement. But I'll tell you, one of the things that is challenging is how do we get more people from the Black community out to vote? the Latino community, because we have a growing Latino community. How do we address accessibility to voting, right, for our seniors, those that are disabled? And you can't have, and we've been talking a lot about this as a county, you can't have a blanket approach for everyone. You have to be intentional about the way in which you engage certain segments of the population to help them be a part of democracy. And so I think, we're not, we have a highly engaged voter population in Montgomery County, but we do want to see, more people of color be a part of the democratic process. And it's not just coming out to vote on election day. It's hosting community events where we can bring our voter services team to participate. It's being a poll worker, right? And volunteering your time to be a part of making sure that election day goes smoothly. So there's more we can do with the Black community. And I think our number one area of focus this year has been about meeting people where they are, going into communities where we have not historically gone as Monco, and doing intentional voter engagement activities.
So last week, and thank you for that. Last week we talked with Commissioner Chairman Omar Shabir.
Yes.
And he gave us some information about satellite offices where people can go in pretty much any day of the week and get their ballots, vote, and all of that. So we're not waiting necessarily on November 5th.
Right.
Is that experience the same in the county? Are there satellite offices or that whole thing?
Absolutely. So my colleagues and I are focused on accessibility. We talk a lot about early voting and making a plan to vote. Don't wait until November 5th to cast your ballot. Now, I'm the type of person that I like to go in to my polling location and cast my ballot. People have other preferences. So yes, from a satellite office perspective, we've doubled the number of satellite offices that we're now operating from 4 to 8 this election season.
Got you.
And which has required us to recruit more poll workers and volunteers to work at our satellite offices. But we've expanded it to really focus on key communities so that now between our drop boxes and our satellite offices, people are in closer proximity to one of those options to cast their ballot.
So the people that are actually working in a satellite office, they are volunteers?
Well, so we recruit volunteers.
Okay.
And then we pay them. We do pay them.
Okay.
And we do pay election day workers. So when I say volunteer, it's not just volunteer. You actually get paid to step up and raise your hand and say you want to help.
Okay. Excellent. Now, on the ballot this year, is there anything different about voting in Montgomery County that questions asked or persons from what someone will experience in Philadelphia?
Really good question. Because there's been a lot of talk among the collar counties and Philadelphia. We try to share best practices, but our voting machines are different than Philadelphia. And our ballot looks different than Philadelphia because we have the autonomy to design the ballot within the election code, the way in which we deem appropriate for our voting machines. And so what voters in Montgomery County will see is a two-sided ballot. And I believe Philadelphia has a two-sided ballot as well.
Okay.
And what, you'll see the presidential election will be on the front, but it's critical that people in Montgomery County do not forget to vote on the back, right? Because your races for Congress, your races for state rep are on the back. And we opted to do a shorter ballot this year so that so that we could expedite processing both on the day of election through the voting machines, but then also counting. Because the world will be waiting for Montgomery County and other counties to count our votes so we know which way the election will go for Pennsylvania.
I am intrigued by this ballot that's on the backside. In Philadelphia, you see it all to the left and the right. So we have two sides, but we can see all of it at once, including the ballot questions. So describe to us in detail when the sheet comes up in Montgomery County, in the county, and they see the presidential election on the front, what do they need to do to get it on the back? Is the machine reversing it, or do they have to take it out the machine and put it back in the other way?
Yeah. So in Montgomery County, so they'll walk in to check in. They'll check in. They'll sign their name, and they'll be handed a ballot in a folder. Okay, it's just one page, and it's front and back. So they'll go sit down, and they'll be given a marker, and they'll fill in the bubbles on the front, and then it says, vote both sides on the bottom. And our poll workers and our election day workers are trained to remind people when they, walk up and get their ballot to vote both sides. So they'll do the vote. It takes a few minutes, and then we have people that are standing by the machines that then take your ballot, put it through the machine reads front and back, and then you cast your vote and you get your sticker.
Don't you find that interesting, Pastor Water, that it's different from county to?
Yeah, and that along with, are there any questions on, are we voting for anything different in the county than they are in Philadelphia?
You are not.
So
No, there's no
local
questions.
stuff?
No.
Okay, got you.
Wow. Thank you. I'm glad we're having the conversation because I didn't realize that this is what it looks like now. So as this election approaches, we asked Chairman Omar Sabir about security and making sure people are safe. What does that look like in Montgomery County? Are we having the same conversations? Because Chairman Sabir said, this is Philly, nobody's messing with us. Now we do know in the county it's a little different, right? Having lived there for 27 years, I understand what takes place there and what drives by and what intimidation looks like versus in Philly. Tell us now what people have to look forward to. Talk about their safety, talk about what is in place to make sure that their ballots are cast and fairly, and that they're not losing things as they're going out to cast their votes.
So first I'll say they shouldn't mess with us in Montgomery County either.
All right, okay.
But in all seriousness, look, the threats are real. We see, the rhetoric that is, out there. We see threats towards, election officials, elected officials, people that are working even in our voter services office. And so what we recently established as Montgomery County is a threat assessment team. So we partnered with our DA because we knew there were these rising threats, especially against election workers, public officials. We established probably about a month ago a threat assessment unit that their full-time job, especially in this season, is to proactively respond to any threats that are made against anyone that's participating in this election. So not only are they making that sure that our poll workers, our voter services folks, us as electeds being out, in a public capacity are protected, they are also working with local law enforcement so that on the day of, no one has to be fearful of walking into a polling location and casting their vote safely. We also have a tip line, and all of this is on Montgomery County, PAvotes.gov. That's our website where we have all of our election material, and we established a tip line. So if anyone has concerns or is being threatened or intimidated, it immediately goes to that threat assessment team. So we are, and we made a significant investment in that group because we're taking this moment in time where we've had, assassination attempts on the president. We've had, this gentleman in York County, this older gentleman got beat up, at a rally. We want to make sure, regardless of who you are voting for, that
Exactly.
everybody feels safe and secure.
Wow. Thank you for that.
You know, when President Barack Obama won the election in 2007, the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission noticed that there was a huge jump in hate crimes in Pennsylvania, particularly in Montgomery and Bucks County. That's why I asked you that question, because they were like literally at the top of dubiously at the top in terms of hate crimes. People have had literature thrown on their lawn about all sorts of things in Montgomery County, which is why it is important for people to know that they're safe. If you're just an average citizen and you wake up one morning and see something dubious, like a noose hanging from a tree across from an elementary school, I'm not making this stuff up.
Right.
Right?
No, it's real.
Right.
It's real, right? And we're talking about 2024. And you report this, do we report that to that same tactical team, or do we just call the police department?
I would call the police department because they're connected with this new threat assessment unit. And then that assessment unit, they're prepared to investigate. So we had detectives doing this work before, but now we're taking a more proactive approach versus a reactive approach. So we'll be able to do both. If people have threats that they're concerned about, contact your local law enforcement. If it's really serious, contact 911, and then our team will be, connected on that issue to investigate.
Yeah, the challenge of living, in the county, the challenge of Pennsylvania is that Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Erie are where there are sections of Black people. But everything in between, Pennsylvania, and it's a different feel.
Yes, it is.
We have more militia in Pennsylvania per capita than any other state in the union. That's just real about. I know as an African American man, when I go out for a run, and when I go, my normal dress is to wear something from one of the universities that I graduated from.
Wow.
As a tactic. So I'm going to go out, if I go out for a run, a walk, with or without my wife, I'm going to have on something that says OU, Harvard, Vermont College, Southern Baptist, something. And the sad reality of that, I shouldn't have to.
Absolutely.
We shouldn't have to do
Absolutely.
that. But I'm going to do that. The other reality is on my vehicles, every vehicle that I drive, on the back, something says veteran. And the reason for that is I got it from the police, that if I happen to be pulled over, when they see veteran, it will change the mindset of the officer as to how he's going to engage, because he's already seeing that I'm a Black man. But just having veteran on the back of my truck or veteran edition on the back of my car sends a signal. Shouldn't have to be that way, but it is real. That's the tension of being Black in America. And that's on steroids in Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia County.
I have a question for you, because my husband does the same thing. If he's going to the hospital or he's out doing something, he wears Harvard, Penn, wherever he's gone to college.
Yep.
Let's talk about how safe, and then I want to ask the same question of you, Commissioner Winder.
Sure.
Black men in particular, it feels to me that they are unsafe in a way. Am I using the correct words? That they're not seen as, they seem to be more of a threat in the eyes of people versus Black women. Am I off base there?
No, you're not off base. In fact, a white man would be safer down the bottom
In West
Philly than a Black man out in Gladwin. In terms of the experience of the trauma-inducing behavior, meaning that white man will experience less microaggressions than the Black man who's in the pharmacy out in Gladwin. And that's just real. Now the white guy may bring some preconceived notions and interpret everything around him as scary, because that's what television has taught him. But in terms of the actual real lived experience, the black guy out in Gladwin is going to experience more microaggressive behaviors than that white guy walking down in the bottom. And I believe that. This is Alan Waller. I approve this message.
And I believe it because I'm married to a black man who's doing the same thing that you're talking about.
Right.
So then my question to you is, what are you hearing from black men in this election cycle?
Listen, I'm hearing a lot of, good things, right? The circles that I travel in Montgomery County, black men that are professionals, black women, black men that are civically minded. They are really doing the work on the ground to get black men to not sit this one out.
Right.
And, I think, regardless of who you're voting for, I think candidates have to speak to the issues that black families are talking about at the kitchen table. And what are the things that are keeping black men and women up at night?
Yeah.
And so I know my colleagues that are doing work on the ground, like, the Senator Haywoods of the world, the Representative Greg Scotts of the world. It's an uphill battle to get black men excited about this election. But we've got great leaders that are meeting the moment to ensure that black men are involved.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
How difficult or how, let me rephrase. One of the things that I hear from my constituency is because of the differences in the machines and people who move. I lived here in Philadelphia for a while now. I live out in the county, so forth, or back and forth. It seems to me that one opportunity for engagement and helping people would be to bring a couple of machines into the church, have them in the Family Life Center so that after church on a few Sundays, they could see it, feel it, taste it, touch it. How difficult is that type of thing to make happen?
Well, I'll say I've seen Chairman Sabir do that, and I always tease him because, that's what we need to do. We need to be sharing those best practices. So we're about to launch, a mobile van, a mobile voter services van.
All right.
And I believe in that van we'll be able to model what the election machine looks like.
Okay.
But it's not hard for our team to do.
Okay.
But this is what I'm talking about. This is what we've challenged our voter services team in this new administration. Go to where the voters are, right? Let's not take for granted that people actually know what the voting process is like. So to your point, something as simple as bringing a mail-in ballot or to show people what the ballot actually looks like or, coming to community events to help register people to vote or help them learn the process of registering to vote or bringing the voting machines. So Philadelphia has us beat in that regard, but open to those types of strategies as we enter the 30-day stretch.
Got you.
In our upcoming interviews, we're going to have young people talk to us about why or why not voting in the elections. Are you having that conversation in Montgomery County too?
We absolutely are. We've been doing a wide range of activities, and I hate to sound redundant, but just to meet people where they are. We spoke to a group of superintendents as an example, all the superintendents in Montgomery County, and we talked about poll workers, high school poll workers. You can be a poll worker at 17 and get experience in the voting process. We've talked to superintendents about, hey, can you send out a communication to your school community and help those that turn 18 by election day get involved? We're also going to college campuses. And so places, I think we have 20-something campuses in Montgomery County. So we're working with school leadership to get young people involved. So we're not leaving anything on the table. We're talking about from the time you start voting at 18 all the way through to people like my father, who turns 88 this week and is bedbound, right?
Yeah.
And everything in between. How do we make sure that we educate both the young as well as the old about what's available to you and why being a part of democracy matters?
The Electoral College. So many people believe that if they vote in the presidential election, that the popular vote is what's going to lead someone to become president of the United States. What is happening in Montgomery County to inform people about the Electoral College? I'm finding a lot of people have no idea that those 270 votes, how are those people chosen? You know, why are they so much more important than the popular vote for president of the United States? Can you speak to that a little bit before we?
Absolutely. Look, it's a system that, in my mind, is quite antiquated, especially when the people come out and vote, and that's why so many people. There's a lot of misinformation around my vote doesn't count, right? So what we do is we just make sure people vote informed and they understand the entire process and path to winning the presidency. And so I know on the political side, I'm involved in a lot of education efforts to help people understand the whole electoral process. But also on the official side, we are doing like telephone town halls and just making sure that everyone understands this election, why being a part of democracy matters, and how it will decide, who's the next president of the United States.
Well, as we wrap up, I'll let Pastor Waller have his last words because as the pastor of Enon Tab, you are never short on words.
No, never short on words. Well, listen,
so
thank you so much for being a part of this conversation and for informing us. We want to keep people informed and inspired. I want to remind you all, we're going to be together tomorrow morning. I'm looking forward. We're still walking with this Abraham stuff, but I am looking forward to tomorrow's conversation. And don't forget, next week, Frederick Douglass Haynes, and we begin our 8 days of glory. That is a wonderful, wonderful experience. And what we're doing this year, every one of those worship services, you can bring some canned goods, the stuff that you would eat for Thanksgiving. Since we're getting ready for Thanksgiving, we want to make sure that more than just you has a great Thanksgiving. We want everybody to have it. And so we're going to do the turkey thing, and that's always exciting, but you got to have something else other than turkey. And so we're asking you to bring those cans. Please check the website and some of the other social media for those specific things. But each night of worship, we're going to fill the altar with those. We're going to pray, and then we're going to bag them all up, and people can have everything they need coming up in Thanksgiving. But we're grateful for your spending time with us, and we're going to get ready to have a word of prayer. And thank you. Look forward to seeing you in the morning. God, I bless you and thank you. Thank you for those who serve us in the political realm. We thank you for all of the ways in which you call us to be a part of making this a more perfect union. I thank you, God, for today's conversation, for Sister Winder, and I thank you for the way that you are using her and helping her to represent us. Now, God, we pray that those who have listened today would be drawn closer together with each other and with us and with you, that ultimately in our lives you would get glory and it would be for our good. Now, God, as we get ready to leave this place, but never from your saving grace, we would that you give us traveling grace till we meet again. Through Christ our Lord, we do pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. See you in the morning.